Welcome, Bulldog fans, to Game Weekend. Welcome any of you Kansas State fans from our 24/7 affiliate covering the Wildcats. We certainly hope to see some of you at Scott Field this weekend as Mississippi State hosts Kansas State. 11 a.m. kickoff for ESPN broadcasting pleasure. Steve, we just finished our regular Monday press conference with Coach Joe Moorhead, and let's go immediately to the top topic of the day, quarterback. We all want to know about the status of Tommy Stevens. Now, informally, we understand that he could have played in the second half of the other day after taking a shoulder injury. Yes, we only call it upper body, but everybody knows it was a shoulder there in the game with Southern Mississippi. But his status now, he had treatment yesterday. He's supposed to get more treatment today, and Coach Moorhead will only list him officially as day-to-day.
Yeah, and David, we touched on this Saturday. You know, he was on the sidelines in the second half, no ice pack, no sling, no immobilization, no wheelchair or hazmat suit or anything like that. You know, he was walking around, seemed to be in good spirits. And, we were told unofficially that he could have returned to the ball game. He did not, and with the game in hand, probably the right decision. Joe did say that he did seek treatment yesterday. We'll get some more treatment, and they will continue to evaluate his progress over the course of the week. But we expect him to play. But the good thing is, you've got some other quarterbacks behind him. You have some depth there. So should the game dictate such, you could possibly get him some rest.
And something we've talked about, too, there is a season beyond this game. Certainly you want to win this Power 5 matchup because the Bulldogs just broke into the coaches poll at number 23, knocking on the door of Associated Press. If they win this weekend, they'll be ranked in both polls going to SEC season. But again, SEC season is the priority at this point, and you don't want to push a guy with a tender shoulder any more than you have to, particularly as well as he has played so far. We've talked about the poise he has showed out there. Yes, he's got great stats, 73% completions, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, a good command of the offense, explosive plays, efficient plays, but his poise just jumps out in all sorts of ways, and the trust this team has in him and vice versa.
Yeah, and David, and we mentioned Saturday, the offensive line play has been very, very good. And as a result, Tommy looks very comfortable back there. Matter of fact, almost too comfortable at times because he just met these guys a couple months ago, but yet there he is, settled in the pocket, working through progressions and taking a couple sacks that probably shouldn't have. But the bottom line is that this group is coming together. You're getting great play out of your running back group. You're getting great play out of your wide receivers. This offense has a chance to be really special. You mentioned the triggerman situation. The anxiety there is somewhat abated by the fact that you do have Keaton Thompson available. You do have Garrett Schrader, who played pretty well on Saturday. And Coach even mentioned Jalen Maiden as a guy today that they will get all three ready to play should Tommy Stevens not be ready to go on Saturday.
Exactly. You certainly think they'll dress 3 quarterbacks and possibly 4, as you mentioned, because Jalen Maiden has practiced. He has not dressed the first 2 games, but he's still very much on the roster. And Keaton Thompson still, his situation remains in a little bit of limbo with the redshirting option. But I think if the game was on the line, particularly once in SEC season, you think he'd be very much a factor there if something really serious happened to Stevens at this point. All right, you mentioned the offensive line. By the way, injury update, Deron Parker is not expected to play this weekend, although, again, last week Coach Moorhead said that he didn't think Darrell Williams would play at center, and he certainly was able to go the whole game and is SEC co-offensive lineman of the week on top of that. So even if Parker's not able to play this week, State showed a lot of versatility. Coach Marcus Johnson really has done a great job with that unit and keeping it cohesive and not making a bunch of mistakes the first 2 games.
David, there's sometimes I'm out there taking pictures, and I'm always surprised at where everybody's lined up because
Michael Story at tackle, that was a new one to me.
Absolutely, and Stuart Reese, I think, has played everything but quarterback. It's incredible to see what they're doing, and Marcus Johnson, when he came in, people weren't sure what to expect. But this group is one of the more versatile offensive line groups that I can remember, David, and it's because you've got so many plug-and-play guys that have the ability to play pretty much wherever you want. LaQuinton Sharp is a guy also that's kind of come in and been a glue guy, a little bit undersized, but he's an interior lineman, could be a center or a guard. But I like what Marcus Johnson's group is doing, and that's another thing you look at again, another great game by the offensive line group. And I really thought we saw early in the ball game the difference between an SEC strength and conditioning program and a Conference USA. And that's no slight to Southern Miss. That's just to simply say the Mississippi State players were bigger and stronger.
And, of course, that comes into a factor again this weekend because projections are 93-94 at kickoff. But State had no problems with cramps this past weekend. And injury-wise, besides obviously Tommy Stevens, Deron Parker, looks like bumps and bruises should be in good shape. All right, Coach Moorhead brought it up that Kylan Hill, averaging, I think, 160 yards per game, is number 1 among all Power 5 running backs so far. Great start for him. And State's also getting great play out of Osiris Mitchell. If he'll wear his eye black this coming week, as the coach wanted to tease him there. But you're just getting plays in the running game, pass game. The balance has been really impressive the first 2 games.
It has been. And, Kylan Hill, and Joe has said it all year, is that being able to throw the football down the field, it would open up the running game, and it has. And as he kind of said off the cuff, people are listening now, which is true. There will probably not be a team that Mississippi State will play this year that'll have maybe a more difficult recollection of Kylan Hill than Kansas State, because Kylan absolutely destroyed them last year. They know who number 8 is. And so that'll be interesting because of the fact they're not going to be caught by surprise. But I also think that Kylan Hill has elevated his game to the point that he wants games like this. And in every game, he's been a little bit nicked up, and he comes back. He's just a big, strong power runner. And I asked Joe about the hurdle that has made such an impression 2 weeks in a row. That's a byproduct of these defensive backs who are much smaller, having to go low, and then he just vaults over the top of them. And so then, the issue becomes, well, you don't want to stay high because, as Joe Moorhead says, you end up getting trucked. And so the fact that he's put that on film, I think, is rather interesting, because there are going to be people now that will think, okay, what do we have to do to get this guy on the ground?
No talk today about the defense specifically from any of the questions, Coach Moorhead, but our impressions right now is Kansas State with a powerful running game. I think something like 74% of their play calls the first 2 games have been running plays, albeit against lesser opponents, but still, that seems to be their bread and butter this year. So we didn't ask because we didn't expect a clarification on Lee Autry's situation, but having missed the first game he played this past game, what do we really know about this right now going into Game 3?
I think they're enjoying keeping everybody guessing a little bit. And I think at the same time, too, it also allows the university and the football program to kind of disguise some of this, because if you'll notice on these game day sheets they give us, these adjustments, it's only guys that are listed on the 2-deep chart. It's not a full list of guys that are being withheld from competition. And so there's some mixing and matching there. And the university has an obligation due to student privacy laws to protect the student athletes as best they can. So there will not be a public declaration about this. But there will be some guys that many people are assuming that are going to be suspended the first 8 games, which we've been told that Mississippi State will pick the games. There'll be some guys that will play, and people are going to be like, well, hey, wait a minute, I thought that guy was suspended, and I think that's part of the deal.
And interesting, did you hear who he named was this past week's Scout Team Player of the Week?
Yes, Willie Gay. Who would ever thought you'd say that, Willie Gay, the Scout Team Player of the Week, but he was. And those guys are staying in shape, and they'll be ready to play when called upon.
So that's most of the highlights from today's press conference of Coach Joe Moorhead. Again, the Bulldogs at 11 o'clock this week in Kansas State. Steve and I will be talking more on Friday about the matchup with the Wildcats, but this is a return game from last year when the Bulldogs dominated 31-10 in Manhattan, with Kylan Hill having career record 211 yards and Nick Fitzgerald rushing for 159 yards. So State certainly has a game plan, but Kansas State, a new coaching staff. Coach Moorhead had a lot of great things to say about their staff, and certainly a winner at a lower division level, which Coach Moorhead also himself knows all about as well. So we'll have more to talk about this weekend. Our coverage today, Robbie Falk had the running game thread. You can catch up on notes from there. Paul Jones was able to talk to Coach Moorhead about some players on the offensive side and some freshmen who've played as well. Steve and I, you've got the video with Coach Moorhead about to post, and we'll be posting this as well with a write-up on it too. So a lot of coverage this week, a lot going on, but it's Game 3, another home game, and we'll tell you exactly what they told the Bulldogs last week. Start hydrating today and get ready for this weekend. And also sometime this afternoon we should be hearing about the game time for next weekend's SEC home opener against the University of Kentucky. For our crew from GPTV 24/7, this is David Murray.